So I've been struggling with a leak on my Firebird for about 2 years now, and I couldn't determine where the leak was coming from. I did recognize it as power steering fluid, but I'd look at the power steering pump. I'd actually reach under the hood, determine if it was coming off the pump. Really never determined if it was that or maybe the rack. And then the other day my son pulled the car into the garage and I get two streaks of power steering fluid in my driveway, and that then suggested that maybe I had a hose leak, maybe the high pressure side. And sure enough, I put a camera underneath the car and turned the steering wheel, and coming out of the actual high pressure side of the system, a couple of streaks of power steering fluid. Now, I do want to mention that a couple weeks prior to this, I was just going to replace the pump, which I bought online, and I tried to disconnect the high pressure line from the old pump, and I could not for the life of me get this nut loose. So I put everything back together and decided to try again at another time. Well, obviously with the power steering high pressure line ruptured and two streaks of fluid coming out, I decided to then get under the hood and replace the old pump and the high pressure line with the new setup. Of course, to do that on a Firebird, this is a 97 Firebird V6. Of course, you have to remove, the air intake side to give you some access to the engine. Of course, you got to remove the serpentine belt there. I actually removed the bracket for the supply. There was a return line underneath here. There's a supply side and then there's a return side on the reservoir here. So you need to kind of pull that out of the bracket. I actually just removed the bracket. I couldn't actually get that out any other way to gain some access. And then easy enough to remove this connector. I got underneath the car, jacked it up a little bit, got underneath the car, and this connector came loose without much effort whatsoever. Of course, I used one of the wrenches that you would want to use on these types of nuts so you don't round over the edges, and was able to get that loose. No need to disconnect it at the pump. Disconnected the return line. It had basically one of those little clamp type connectors there. Pulled the pulley off and replaced everything. So at the end of the day, obviously you can't see where this was leaking, but certainly when you turn the wheel, it was spraying out fluid very quickly on the high speed. on the high pressure side of the system. I think the leak, there was two of them. Obviously, they were kind of in this area right here. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you're getting a leak on your power steering fluid, make sure you check the high pressure line, and maybe even put a camera underneath the car to determine what the cause of the leak is.